Tonight we're doing a little dog talk as we come in here on a Monday night. And I understand it is, what is it? Cyber Monday. So if you're looking for a cyber deal here from Dogs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, well, you get a pretty good deal. You get me for nothing, which is probably going to be the best deal that you get all day, I suppose. I suppose. We're here on a Monday. Big win for Georgia, of course, over Georgia Tech this past Saturday. Georgia winning over the Yellow Jackets 37-19. We were in the stadium. It was quite a scene. Georgia a little lethargic as the game began. But then the Bulldogs, caught up and did what the Georgia usually does. They took command of the game and eventually won the game, of course, over the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, which, by the way, Georgia Tech is in the market for a new head football coach. And apparently, Willie Fritz is the guy who's on the front end of the list for Georgia Tech. You might say, well, who in the world is Willie Fritz? Well, he's currently the head football coach at Tulane University. Tulane having a 10-win season this season. Pretty good season. So Georgia Tech, apparently nothing is official, but apparently Georgia Tech's going to kind of pass over Brent Key, who has been the interim coach for Georgia Tech for the last several games, last 8 games. He's done a pretty good job, but apparently Georgia Tech is going to go with Willie Fritz. Now, that's not official. It could change in the days to come. And by the way, you might not have seen this, but late reports are that Hugh Freeze now is the head football coach at Auburn University. Hugh Freeze at Liberty University, and Liberty having a good season last season, pretty good season this season. Hugh Freeze is a very good football coach. Of course, he coached at Ole Miss some years back. Got into some controversy, some trouble, had some recruiting violations and some personal problems. Moved on from Ole Miss, eventually wound up at Liberty. He's done a good job at Liberty University, but apparently tonight the report is that Hugh Freeze will be introduced as the new head football coach at Auburn University. Now, nothing official there as well, although it is being reported that, that pretty well is a done deal, especially after Lane Kiffin, who was number one on the list for Auburn, decided to stay at Ole Miss. But Lane Kiffin had a lot of fun. He had a lot of fun at the expense of Auburn University. Kind of stringing them along until he said no, and Lane Kiffin signed a new deal with the Ole Miss, so he's going to be there for the next several years. Barry Watkins, how you doing, Barry, my man? How you doing? Good to have you with us. Barry says 13-0. He's already counting on a victory over LSU in the game coming up this coming Saturday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, when Georgia will take on LSU in the SEC championship game, the 2022 SEC championship game. We'll talk about that game. Spencer says, go Dogs as well. Good to have you with us, Spencer. Quincy Lockett, go Dogs. And we have an inquiry. Where is Georgia? That's kind of an open question. Georgia is in the United States. It's in the southern part of the United States. Now, not trying to be smart, but if you're asking about the Georgia Bulldogs, Georgia is, if you're talking about the rankings, Georgia currently is number one in all of the polls and number one in the college football playoff rankings. The new rankings will be out tomorrow night, and that'll be interesting to see those new rankings and what will happen. Barry says, my routine every week. Well, Barry, it's good to have you with us. Well, let's talk a little bit about the game coming up this coming Saturday. The 2022 SEC Championship game will be at 4 o'clock Eastern Time this coming Saturday. It will be broadcast on CBS. Yes, Brad Nessler and the guy everybody loves to hate, Gary Danielson, who is, who I think if Gary Danielson ran for Senate or governor in the state of Alabama, he probably would be elected, because Gary Danielson is just, really on board with Alabama being in the top 4. Pretty evident. But anyway, the game will be this coming Saturday, 4 o'clock Eastern Time on CBS. And it's going to be something. And we'll be taking a look at that game in just a moment. Daniel Bailey, LS who? Go Dogs. Oh, okay. I gotcha. And Spencer saying this week is fun for me. I'm a dog and my wife's a tiger. Okay, so we have a split household there. Well, Spencer, for a man who's been married for quite a many years and a wonderful marriage to a wonderful wife, just be careful there, my buddy. It's going to be interesting where the committee is going to put Alabama. Of course, Alabama, Nick Saban he's saying, look, we've lost 2 games, but only by very few points on the last play of the game for each of those games. And Nick Saban is really campaigning to have Georgia, or Alabama rather, in the top 4 in the college football rankings. We'll just have to wait and see after the weekend, after the championship games. We've got Brad coming in. He's campaigning for the Heisman for Stetson Bennett the fourth, and why not? Why not? Let's see. Brad says mailman. No, actually, he's the milkman now. He's what's the quality win for Alabama? None, according to Barry. So he's putting his 2 cents worth in. Let's compare a little bit Georgia and LSU. Of course, LSU losing last week. Texas A&M just dismantling LSU in College Station. It wouldn't, Texas A&M played the game of the season for them. Lo and behold, it's the last game of the season for them. But they just took apart LSU. I don't want to be such a nerd. Bryce, how you doing? Good to have you with us tonight. We're checking in with our folks here. They might as well already give Georgia the national championship already. Quentin is ready to celebrate again. Well, Quentin, some other teams may have something to say about that. Don't win the division, don't go. Georgia's been told that several times. That's exactly right, Marie. What goes around comes around, goes around. Jaden Daniels is in the boot. The word out of LSU is that he is a game time decision, but it doesn't look good. Ankle injury for Jaden Daniels, the quarterback for LSU. So may not happen. Don't want to be too much of a statistical nerd with you tonight, but just some comparisons between Georgia and LSU. As far as offense is concerned, total offense, Georgia has the number 8 ranked team in the country in total offense, the number 3 ranked team in the SEC. Georgia gains 488.8 yards per game. LSU is number 34 overall and number 7 in the SEC. Yards per play, Georgia is number 7 overall. Georgia gets 6.95 yards per play, almost 7 yards a play. LSU is number 41 overall. They get a little over 6 yards per play. So, and I can go down. There's all kinds of statistics here, but we're not going to bore you with that. But if you look at this, if you look at the teams, you put LSU and Georgia side by side, and you look at them statistically, Georgia has the obvious advantage in almost every situation, almost every category. Georgia has a higher ranking as far as statistics are concerned. So you put Georgia and LSU next to each other, and Georgia is the superior team statistically, and of course, with the record and everything else. As far as team efficiency is concerned, and that's a formula that ESPN has tabulated, and they look at offense, defense, special teams, overall, that kind of thing, and they make a determination using a lot of computerized stuff and that kind of thing to judge which team is a better team overall. Georgia is the number 1 team in the country, according to ESPN, overall in team efficiency. LSU is number 14 overall. So Georgia will come into the game. It's a 17.5-point favorite. Now, the early booking, the early booking was, the spread line was at 15 on Sunday. It has now gone to 17.5. That may have something to do with Jaden Daniels and his situation. And Michael Milner, go Dogs, indeed. So Georgia now a 17.5-point favorite over LSU. This will be the fifth time that Georgia will be competing for the SEC title in 7 years under Kirby Smart. How about that? The fifth time Georgia will be competing for the SEC title in 7 seasons under Kirby Smart. Georgia currently is 1-3 in those games. They won one game, beat Auburn a few years ago. But they've lost to LSU and Alabama in the other games. So Georgia is 1-3 under Kirby Smart. This will be the fifth time Georgia will be competing for the SEC title in 7 years. LSU has been a team that has given Georgia a lot of trouble. In 2018, LSU defeated Georgia in Death Valley, went on to defeat Georgia again in the 2019 SEC championship game. But currently the betting line is, I guess you can say, that Georgia is a 17.5 point favorite. It'll be kind of interesting to see how that'll move, either up or down, forward or backward, as we get closer to the game on Saturday. The AP poll came out, the AP rankings for Week 14. Generally, the AP poll kind of tracks the college football playoff rankings that come out on Tuesday. Again, the next rankings will be coming out on Tuesday, tomorrow night. AP poll has Georgia number 1, Michigan on the strength of its big win over Ohio State, number 2, TCU number 3, and USC number 4. Now, most prognosticators say that's the way it's going to wind up in the final college football rankings, that you'll have Georgia winning in the SEC championship game, Michigan winning over Purdue in the Big Ten game, championship game, TCU winning over Kansas State in the in the Big 12 game, and then USC winning over Utah. Even though Utah beat USC earlier in the season. So most are saying, okay, those are going to be the 4 teams that make it into the college football playoffs. However, you just never know. I mean, college football is really a lot of fun this year, and there have been a lot of surprises, and you can't count out more surprises to come in college football. Sitting on the outside at number 5 is Ohio State, they were beaten, of course, pretty soundly by Michigan on Saturday. Then you have Alabama. Coach Nick Saban saying, hey, my team needs to be in there. And then you have Tennessee at number 7, Penn State at number 8, Washington number 9, and Clemson taken apart by South Carolina. Well, not taken apart, but beaten by South Carolina in a game this past Saturday. Big game for South Carolina, the Gamecocks. And so that's your top 10 in the AP poll. So we'll have to wait and see, what's going to happen. It's all about. Okay, what we got here? Oh, we have the spelling. We have one of our don't spell your schools. Okay, did I do that or did somebody else do that? Okay, all right. Yeah, I know. Okay. So let's look at the championship games coming up this coming Saturday. Because this is going to determine everything in the final college football rankings, which will come out next Tuesday, not tomorrow night, but a week from Tuesday. In the SEC championship game, of course, you have LSU versus Georgia. Georgia, a 17.5 point favorite. LSU had hopes of maybe getting into the college football playoffs if they beat Georgia in the SEC championship game. They would be a 2-loss team, but their hope was that if they beat Georgia, they could make it into the college football playoffs. Of course, that completely went out the window when Texas A&M beat LSU this past Saturday. And so, and somebody asked me, well, what happens if Georgia loses to LSU? Well, Georgia will still be in the college football playoffs, but probably instead of number 4 or number 1, they would be the number 4th ranked team, and everybody else below them would move up or something. So we'll have to see. Michael's coming across with a prognostication. He says Georgia's going to win 40-20. 40-20. Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Big Ten championship game. So you got Purdue versus Michigan. Purdue is winning the Western division of the Big Ten, Michigan winning the Eastern division. Michigan is a 16-point favorite over Purdue. Huh. So does Purdue have a shot? I think every team in all of these championship games have a shot. Now, in some cases, like hopefully with LSU, it's not a very good shot. But I think every team has got a shot. Purdue versus Michigan. Oh boy, it would move the world if Michigan, coming off that big win over Ohio State, would stumble against Purdue. But that knocked them out of the top four. Then in the Big 12 championship game, you have Kansas State at TCU. And Kansas State, Kansas State almost beat TCU earlier in the season. So TCU is only a 2.5-point favorite over Kansas State. This is in the Big 12 championship game. Kansas State starting quarterback Adrian Martinez left that game with TCU with an injury. Will Howard then came in, the quarterback for Kansas State. Howard now is the starter for the Wildcats, and Kansas State will be looking for a big win over TCU. So if Kansas State, very capable team of beating TCU, if that happens, what in the world will happen then with the college football playoff rankings? Kind of interesting. In the Pac-12 championship game, it's Utah versus USC. Now, USC's lost one game this season. They lost it to Utah. So you've got the team that has beat USC playing against USC in the Pac-12 championship game. Now, this is Friday night. This game will be on Friday night. And so, if Utah beats USC, USC will fall out of the top four. Is that going to open the door for somebody like Ohio State or Alabama even? Oh boy, it'll be kind of interesting to see. USC is only a 2.5-point favorite over Utah. This is Friday night. Boy, you're talking about Friday night lights and talking about Friday night but watching. Let's see it. Grady Darcy, our good buddy, the Dogs beat TCU in round one by 31. Rematch with Michigan and win that one by 38. Meet me at the championship celebration in Athens. Well, Grady ought to know. If anybody ought to know what's going to happen, it's Grady. He's got inside information on this stuff. Some pretty strong and pretty bold predictions there from Grady Darcy on what's going to happen with the college football playoffs. Anthony Willis, Bama makes it. We know that Saban is paying to be there. So Anthony says if Alabama makes the playoffs, something nefarious is going on. Oh boy, I don't know. In the ACC championship game, I mean, if you're a fan of the ACC, you'll watch. I don't know when this game is going to be played. I don't have the time for it. But you have, I don't have the time when the game is going to be played. Now, if it's on and nothing else is on, I'll turn it over there. North Carolina versus Clemson. Clemson is an 8-point favorite over North Carolina. This is in the ACC championship game. Dabo and Uiagalelei. By the way, DJ Uiagalelei has a younger brother who is a 5-star recruit. Did I say that? Are they related? Aren't they brothers? They're 5-star recruit. He's a 5-star recruit, and he's interested in Georgia. So North Carolina versus Clemson. Okay. Clemson, 8-point favorite. The game basically has no playoff implications. New Year's Bowl, New Year's Day bowl game appearances on the line in this. So, it's kind of basically you just like football and you want to watch football to watch that game, right? Some of the other games, some of the, I guess, lesser, known conferences, the AAC championship game, UCF versus Tulane, Conference USA championship game. This is Friday, North Texas at University of Texas, San Antonio. The MAC championship game, Ohio versus Toledo. Sun Belt championship game, Coastal Carolina at Troy. And the Mountain West championship game, Fresno State at Boise State. By the way, have you bought anything on what is it, Cyber Monday, where you supposedly are going to get all kinds of deals? I saw where, a record was set on Black Friday for online shopping, which is, $9 billion or something like that. So a couple of other things. By the way, if you have a prediction on the score for Saturday, let us have it. We have one. Michael says it's going to be Georgia 40, Tigers 20. I've been mulling it over. See, here's the thing. I've obviously we've all been watching Georgia. I think over the last, I don't know, over the last 3 games, Georgia appears to be I don't know, maybe a weary team, maybe a team that's been worn down just by the grind of the schedule and then being the number one team in the country. And Georgia. Michael wants Georgia stuff, so all you guys, you get Michael's information and send him some Georgia stuff. But Georgia was a little lethargic coming out of the gate against Georgia Tech. The Kentucky game was cold and windy. Mississippi State game, and they came off that big game against Tennessee, and then they had the Florida game. Georgia appeared to be, in the last couple of games, kind of a weary team. I'm talking about, worn down team a little bit. But I'm sure everything changes now. Man, we're going for a championship now. So I anticipate, here's what I think. I think Georgia's going to win this game. And I think Georgia will win it just on the fly, just as I feel right now, 34-7. I think Georgia wins it 34-7. So will you write that down? So, because I always forget what I say, Grady says Georgia allows it to stay too close in the first half. Yeah. Okay. Grady and I are pretty close. He says 38-9, Georgia winning. Kirby does not run up the score. That is exactly right. When Kirby Smart feels like the game is at hand, then he goes to ground and pound. That is exactly right. He's not a guy that's going to, unlike, some team that I won't mention, but their initials are the University of Tennessee, throwing the thing with, a few seconds left, and scoring against Missouri and, but Kirby doesn't do that. But I want Georgia out of the box, in the first half. I want Georgia out of the box immediately in this game coming up. Hey, Miss Jean, how you doing? A faithful follower of Dogs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So I want Georgia to get a fast start in this game. And it's at 4 o'clock on Saturday. And Larry Munson, the great announcer for the University of Georgia, he used to feel like every team was going to beat Georgia. They could be playing Shag Nasty State, and he would think, oh, my goodness, we don't have a chance. Coach Dooley used to make fun of Larry and his gloomy outlook on every game that Georgia was playing. Well, I'm always a nervous wreck when Georgia plays. So, I think Georgia's going to handle LSU. Let's see. Auburn apparently, again, has found its replacement. Hugh Freeze is set to take over at Auburn, according to multiple reports. Sports Illustrated is the first to report this news. Freeze previously coached at Ole Miss from 2012 to 2016. The head coach at Liberty University, where he has spent the past 4 seasons. And so apparently Hugh Freeze will be going to the University of Auburn. What do you think about that hire? Hugh Freeze is a good coach. And so I think Hugh Freeze will do a good job for Auburn. Bama and Tennessee play the same. Yeah, that's true. Michael says that. Yeah, and I don't. Well, one thing, if you try to run up the score, you chance some injury to your players too. I guess. Let's see. Let's take a look at last week's scores. Thanksgiving weekend scores. And there were some good games in the conference. Mississippi State beat Ole Miss 24-20. It was a good game. Mississippi State winning. Final, also Missouri beat Arkansas surprisingly. Missouri came on strong, qualified for a bowl now. Missouri is, and Arkansas qualified for a bowl as well. Um, then you have Florida State beating Florida 45-38. There was absolutely no defense in that game. I watched some of that game. That was a fun game to watch. Now, if you wanted a defensive struggle, hey Chris, how you doing? If you wanted a defensive struggle, then you didn't watch that Florida State Florida game. Miss Jean, which Georgia quarterback do you believe will transfer maybe to Auburn? Um, we'll have to talk to our good friend Rusty Manziel. We'll do that soon. I don't know. You know, hopefully none of the guys do. I think Carson Beck pretty well is set to be the number one guy going into the offseason for Georgia. And then you got Vandergriff, you got Gunnar Stockton. You've got some. We got a young guy we're signing for the 2024 season. Our son, one guy who's already committed. I don't know. I hope none, but we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be a wide open thing now. It's going to be a um, wide open thing for who's going to be the quarterback for Georgia after Stetson Bennett. So Florida State beat Florida 45-38. Georgia, of course, beating Georgia Tech 37-14. Clemson losing to South Carolina this past Saturday, 31-30. I really think that Georgia will win back-to-back, be the first team ever to three-peat. Well, Michael's ready to go. Yeah, the last college football team to repeat as national champions was Alabama back in 2008, 2009. Miss Jean says she believes Vandergriff will leave. I hope not. He's a good quarterback. He's a big guy, got a strong arm. He's more of a pocket passer. I hope not. Kirby Smart was talking today about South Carolina's win over Clemson, pointing to the fact, of an indication of how strong the SEC is. And I agree with him. Took out Clemson 31-30. First time South Carolina has beaten Clemson in, I don't know, a good while. Where's that thing you sent me? We got it around here somewhere. So, excuse me. Somebody sent me a couple of statistics. Okay, the Georgia here's something interesting. What do you think about this? The Georgia Bulldogs are currently on a 27-game regular season win streak. Pretty impressive. Georgia has won 27 straight regular season games. The overall team score of Georgia versus all opponents, now listen to this, is 1,103 to 273. In other words, during this 27-game regular win streak for Georgia, Georgia has scored 1,103 points against all those opponents and given up only 273. I mean, that's dominance. That's amazing. Amazing dominance for the University of Georgia. Peter Burns for ESPN, he kind of tweeted something very interesting. He said, who's going to be the SEC Coach of the Year? Says it's going to be interesting. Who's going to be the SEC Coach of the Year? He says Josh Heupel has 10 wins in year 2. He's a candidate. Kelly from LSU is the SEC champion in year 1 with LSU. I keep wanting to call him Gene Kelly, the old actor. Okay. Brian Kelly. Shane Beamer wins 8 games, back-to-back top 10 wins this season. This is Peter Burns. He says, who's going to be the SEC Coach of the Year? Is it going to be Heupel? Is it going to be Brian Kelly? Is it going to be Shane Beamer? And then he says, and this is what he wrote. He says, or will it be Kirby Smart? Kirby Smart lost 857 players, and he goes undefeated. Of course, he's saying that tongue in cheek, but it's amazing. Georgia lost so many from a very talented team and undefeated in the SEC for back-to-back seasons, undefeated in the SEC, and undefeated overall for 2 seasons in a row. The number one team in the college football rankings. It really is amazing. Kirby does not get the credit outside of Georgia, outside of the circle of Georgia. He does not get the credit he deserves. And Georgia doesn't. Georgia gets disrespected outside of Georgia, I think. Or maybe I'm just imagining that. I don't know. Last Saturday, Kentucky beat Louisville 26-13. Louisville was ranked number 25, so you had Kentucky beating a ranked Louisville team. Alabama beat Auburn in the Iron Bowl 49-27. Alabama winds up 10-2 overall, 6-2 in the SEC, number 7th ranked team in the country. Auburn winds up 5-7. In are they eligible? They can go to a bowl. There's okay. We will. we did we mess it up? Okay. One of our interns did that, I guess. Let's see. Texas A&M beat LSU 38-23, and Tennessee whooped up on Vanderbilt last week 56-0. So there you go. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for us here. Did we? Yeah, we did. He did, didn't he? He spelled. Okay. Well, sorry about that. We'll fix that next time. Oh, well. We try to give young guys a chance, and sometimes it doesn't work out. All right, guys, good to have you with us tonight here on Dogs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Good to have you with us on this Monday night as we talk a little bit about Georgia, and LSU. Looking forward very much to the rest of the week. By the way, coming up on Wednesday, we'll be having Aaron Murray, SEC quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs, great Bulldog player, currently an analyst for ESPN. Aaron Murray will be joining us on our program, and we'll be talking with him about the game coming up on Saturday with LSU. It's always good to have Aaron with us, and I promise that we will spell check Georgia and make sure that it is done. I just come in and do the thing, and hopefully, we'll get that right. All right, guys, good to have you with us on a Monday night. God bless you. We appreciate Southeast Mortgage, the official home loan lender of the Georgia Bulldogs, for being our sponsor, for making our program possible. And we appreciate those folks so very much. When it comes time for you to finance or refinance your home, be sure to go to southeastmortgage.com/UGA, and you'll get contact information there for those folks, and they will help you to do what you need to do to make sure that process of financing or refinancing your home will go smoothly. So we appreciate Southeast Mortgage. Good to have you with us tonight. And we close, of course, with those wonderful words. Go Dogs.